Hard work, work. There you go.
Forward.
Hard work, hard work. Hard work, hard work. Hard work, work. There you go.
Forward.
Hard work, hard work. Hard work, hard work. Hard work, work. There you go.
Forward.
Hard work, hard work. Hard work.
Fall in.
Hey, good morning. Excuse me. Almost choked. Almost living like Biden last night. But in any case, good morning, good morning, good morning. What's good with y'all? Y'all know what it is. It's your boy, Trey, the commish. You got the man, the people's coach, Cornelius. We in here, First Formation Morning Sports Talk. Y'all know we book in the week with the currently booking the week with some insight on a Monday, follow it up on a Friday, and do a little in between every once in a while. So we hope y'all having a gracious day. What's good this morning, Coach? How you doing?
I'm feeling all right. Everybody see any of them clips from Caitlin Clark on the Good Morning America?
Oh, she was on Good Morning Morning. I didn't catch it. What they was on there talking about? Her her
Life
rise.
saves this thing as far as her plans and stuff going into the WNBA. If y'all ain't check that out, check that out. As far as she definitely wants to win, I can tell you that.
And I mean, she has. So you know what? Funny you bring that up. So like talking about that, like you just said, the fact of we could call it. I think what we have dubbed it in our time frame is the Mamba mentality. Saying with going forth and wanting to exact something and taking it by force by any means necessary. Do you think it diminishes when you're not winning? To have that mentality, but not be winning, do you think it diminishes what we have known as the Mamba mentality or that fight in a player in general?
A little bit, right? Like it even got to the real Mamba, right? Losing really got to the real Mamba, even though they weren't losing as bad as you know what I'm saying, as bad as some of the other ones, right? Like, but they were losing. They might have been a playoff team, but they won a championship team. So you got to think how that was messing with the original Mamba, right? So you know how it is on the other levels when you come in. Like you look at the Wembanyama coming in. I want to win, right? You're not winning, and then they go tell you it's gonna be 2, 3 years. Is it a guarantee you're gonna be winning in 2, 3 years, Victor? I mean, those kind of things. So I'm pretty sure either way at you. It has to, right?
Yeah. So stay along. Let me actually put up stay along the lines of let's say NCAA, right? Of course, we know that we're getting closer and closer to the men's the conference champion tournaments that's going on or are getting ready to take place. Last night, I know Arizona won what was the last Pac-12's regular season championship in blistering fashion. But it's a team out there, right, that has been doing work, and I think ain't no one really talking about. They're over in the SLC, and they were a team that went from being, I think, what was their record? They went from being, I had just looked it up. They went from being, oh my goodness. They went from being 11-23 last year, of course, under a different coach, to being 27-3 this year. We're talking about that team out in Lake Charles, them Pokes, the McNeese State Cowboys, who are currently a number 1 seed in the SLC, and just awaiting. So, of course, we know Will Wade is the coach there now, removed from LSU for some impropriety situations. Went down the highway and ended up in Lake Charles, just as at the seat of the Calcasieu Parish area. When you see those type of turnarounds, do you think it bodes well for the recruitment? Like, is it now with Will Wade there turned around the team 11-23 to 27-3? But do they have a chance in your opinion?
You never know what's gonna happen, but they don't have. I don't think they have a chance in the tournament. As far as I think it's good what McNeese State doing. I think it's you got to give some of that to the recruiting, but you got to give a lot of that to the coach coming in, right? Because if you only been there a year or so, you haven't even brought in your recruits really. You know, you got 1 year of recruits, right? Like, and they
Hmm.
freshmen. So your team that you using players from elsewhere or before, and to reach them so quickly, like sometimes that just don't happen, right? Like we see it all the time. Like sometimes it don't happen when a lot of people get ghosts, right? When the person that recruited them ain't there no more, or they lose interest, they get disinterested in the game. So to be able to, but that's a big flip to only have 3 losses. So you say, yeah, you're doing something right, and you're a heck of a coach. You're a heck of a coach, and the players buying into the play. So that tells you that you got a McNeese State. You got some winners, and maybe you got that for years to come.
And it's interesting, like you just talked about, because you go from presumably having like a more, of course, we're in the culture now, in my opinion, is where if a coach comes in from out of state or from another place, they bring in, of course, their staff, and then now due to the portal, you could potentially bring in your players too, or start looking for certain players that you could bring in, and saying, and basically rebuild the whole program, in which we've seen it with Colorado University, Colorado, with Deion Sanders. As he came in, he brung in, they made money in the portal, or what seemed to be making money in the portal initially, and then things kind of like fell apart later on as we watched them recognize that it's a lot more in competing in this realm. But in in-state, he did show that he was able to do stuff. They took a team last year that won, took an institution that had one win previously, to I think 6 wins on in his first year being there, coaching in Division 1. And so, what I'm saying, it was something to stand their hat on, but of course he got a lot of ridicule and everything. So for Will Wade to go from coaching at LSU, and now he's in a little smaller McNeese, when you think about it, he should have been successful, shouldn't he? Should he not? When he was at a Division 1 SEC program, and then you go to a smaller SLC program, you should think that, I mean, big scale on a smaller, bigger things on a smaller scale. Like, he should have did that, correct?
Well, it depends, right? Was Rick Pitino? It's like Rick Pitino, one of the best coaches ever, but was he
I thought
always
about it.
successful? You know what I'm saying? Has he always been successful with some of the moves he's made? I mean, you feel? I mean, so you have to look at it like the individual coaching styles of people, right? Like this is unique because Will Wade, nobody, like he an even better coach. I don't even think he was showed that he was this good at LSU. You feel what I mean? So I think it takes some growing and it takes some, like he went through his little trials and tribulations or whatever off the court, in the situations that he was in. But maybe that's an eye opener. Maybe that woke you up. Sometimes drama can wake you up, right? Sometimes bad things in life happen, and then you hit your stride or something. So I always look at it like it's open. You know what I'm saying? Like it's open, and it goes by the individual. We can't lump them all together, but it's a great story, the Will Wade story.
So staying in that, going a little further, or taking a whole comprehensive look at it, right? 24 years. Let's just say that 24 years. I came across a post in reference to the best 100, in which we're not going to go all over all 100, but the best 100 college players in the last 24 years.
Hmm.
When you think about that last 24 years, that's probably half our age, or a little half our age. Who would you say was the number best college player in the last 24 years?
Best college player in the last 24 years? Man, that's a tough question. Um, Melo only played 1 year, um, but I think Melo, he got to be high on my list. D Rose played like 1 year. I think all the best only played like 1 or 2 years. I mean, so I mean, when you really looking at it, I mean, but to really answer that question, I'm gonna have to take me a moment. I'm gonna think. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say we talking men's basketball right now. I'm assuming.
Yes.
So that's a little bit harder. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna stick with. I'm going mellow. I'm going
Okay.
mellow all day.
Yes, and shout out, of course, shout out to Buckets and Break Ankles Daily, in which I pulled up the post from. So I'm gonna go from their bottom 10, and then we'll go up, and then maybe we'll touch on some of the other ones here and there within the other from 11 down to the 100. So their top 10, they had at number 10, Jimmer Fredette.
Oh, I don't remember Jimmy.
Jimmy. At number 9, Tyler Hansborough.
Okay, okay.
UNC. At number 8, Jay Will, Jason Williams from Duke.
Wow, now that was shocker.
If you know what, would Jay Will have been a problem had he not had the injury?
No, you saw what they was doing in Chicago. They was pitiful.
At number 7, Blake Griffin. At number 6, Jalen Brunson. At number 5, Kimball Walker.
Okay,
Yeah, Kimball was a problem.
I see what they doing.
At number 4, Zion Williamson.
Okay, okay.
At number 3, Kevin Durant.
Nah.
At number 2, AD. And of course, number 1, like you said, Carmelo Anthony at number 1.
Okay, so Anthony was number one. I haven't seen his list, so I didn't know he was on there. But I went mellow. But here's the thing. I forgot about AD and how good he was in Kentucky. You know what I'm saying? But I actually thought, for me, I know the unibrow was the thing back then, but for me, I thought Carl Anthony Towns had a little bit better college career than AD as
Mm.
far as if we talk. I mean, you know what I mean? Like if we compare, but that's a good list. I mean, Kimber Walker, he was something good,
So
and we thought Kimber Walker was going to be really great in the NBA.
So when I look at their next 10 and stuff like that, it was kind of up there. So I throw a couple of names out there in the next 10. Actually, I'll give it a whole 10. And I think I don't know if some of
But
these
no D Rose is disrespectful. I'm just, I mean, that's just my opinion, people.
the year in Memphis.
That's disrespectful.
You know what? I don't even know. You know what? As I look through this, I don't even know because I didn't look at the whole what. I just made sure I put it off so I could pull it up. You know, same content. But I don't know if D Rose is even in these 100. But this next 10 is kind of suspect in my opinion. Like I give the next 10. I won't give it in any particular order, but I'd say in the next 10 is Emeka Okafor. Well, I just say Emeka Okafor is at 12. Michael Beasley is at 16. Now he might have been a problem in college. DeJuan Dixon, like at number 20. I gotta look at that. DeJuan Dixon from Maryland. Adam Morrison at Gonzaga at number 19. Greg Golden, 13. JJ Redick, 14. Dwayne Wade, 17. Doug McDermott at 18. Like Doug McDermott, out of all the people in the last 24 years, Doug McDermott, I don't think Doug was that much of a problem in college.
No, Steph Curry. I'm confused.
Steph Curry's number 11.
Okay.
So are we going to go there? Really, Steph? Like, let's keep it honest.
Davidson. But Davidson, and he had the boys balling. I mean, they came to the tournament and they kind of showed out a little bit, like, and it was all because of Steph. Like, no other reason.
We don't even know anyone else from that team. We just know Steph. And of course, Trae Young, he's on there as a 15 rank, in which I think that's a little high. But I mean, because if you look at that, you got John Wall in the next 10, John Wall, Ty Lawson, Jameer Nelson, Evan Turner, Shabazz Napier, Buddy Hield, Frank Kaminsky, Trey Burke, Mario Chalmers, Shane Battier.
No Trae Young. I'm confused. See, I look at some of the names, right, and I just wonder, like, what are we really like? Where's the I guess we just going off. I don't know what they're going off.
I would assume they're common because you even got in 31 through 40, you got Drew Timme, who I guess was a problem in a sense, but he didn't, you know what I'm saying? We haven't really heard anything. Luka Garza, in which really the list starts to throw me. Chris Paul is in the next 30. Draymond Green, Jahlil Okafor, Jerry McNamara, Kyle Singler, Al Horford, Hakeem Noah, and Carl Boozer. And within the top 50, at 50, Hashim Thabit, Andrew Bogut, Jared Sullinger, DeAndre Ayton, Obi Toppin, Tyler Zeller, Gordon Hayward, who was a problem at Butler. But I put Gordon Hayward like he was basically the same player that Steph was in Davidson.
Yeah, but Butler had some tough teams when he was there too, though. Um,
Seven
I
Mac,
look,
yeah.
and that's what I look at. Like, I think when you mentioned like the D Wade and stuff, like didn't D Wade go to like Marquette or something like that? Like,
Yeah.
like, and he took them. He like those guys that took those smaller schools to the tournament and they actually showed up. And you said, whoa, they one play here or there or a couple of plays here or there, they could have won the whole damn thing or got to the advanced way further than they did. But what they some of them schools would they even have been there without those players? Um, like I think Melo at the top. I mean, so when you look at the list, I think Melo at the top because where was Syracuse before he got there? Like, no disrespect to Jim Boeheim, who was a good coach, in the college arena, but man, some of those players are special. That's why I'm like the disrespect for
When was
Jimmer Fredette. Jimmer Fredette, that was the name that you threw out with 10 on the list. Remember, Jimmer he was supposed to be that dude. Unfortunately, some of them didn't make it on the next level, right? Jimmer, the Adam Morrisons. Adam Morrison was a beast in college. He was like Jimmer Fredette 2.0. You know, um, like some of them, Tyler Hansborough, you saw like he was really good. Carlos Boozer was good in college. He was decent in the pros. Um, a lot of those players was good. I never got to see. The one that shocked me the most is you said DeAndre Aiden.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know the book on him coming out of college, but um, um, I don't know. I think for me, I think he won because his NBA career seemed like it might be a little bit better than what he gave you in college. you know, um, so he won though. I mean, Chris Paul, Wake Forest, like they did their thing.
So
Um, um,
Derrick Rose is in the top 100. He is, but he's number 89, number
yeah, see,
84. 84.
that's straight up digital. Like, stop
Last
it. Yeah, like I think he missed a couple of free throws in a key game on a run in the tournament.
yeah,
Otherwise, we talking different about
he went
you
pro after
know
that. Yeah.
to me that's no different. Like missing the free throws though, like to me that's no different than C Webb calling that timeout that one time. You know what I'm saying? In the national championship, um, which brings up something like think about this, like you you hoop, you the hoop. Imagine being that guy. Would you want to be that person that missed those free throws, like in a
Because
crucial game?
think about it. That's the only thing that people like. We just talk about how great Derrick Rose is. He was the youngest MVP in the league, and but we are going back and rescinding back to the free throws in which we missed. Or think about who was it? Who was it for Orlando? D Scott, D3. Oh, Nick Anderson.
Oh, Nick Anderson. Nick Anderson.
Nick
Yeah.
Anderson missing the free throws. You know what I'm saying? And to me, honestly, I sit up and think about it like the free throws. Like free throws, we talk about free throws. Like if anything,
Right.
that should be the easiest. And you know what I'm saying? And some of the like LeBron scores at an amazing clip. AD can be an offensive juggernaut until you put them on the line. And then it's
Right.
like, oh man.
Free throws. Like free throws have always been LeBron's Achilles heel, and that brings up an interesting question. Like, I know that I saw this thing where it was saying Bronny right now is going to wait. He was going to wait until wait to make up his mind on whether he's going to enter the draft or not. And I'm wondering, what are we going off of that he enters the draft? I mean, no knock against the guy, but I think, and then I saw this thing where LeBron said, people need to raise up off Bronny. It's like, yo, you put the pressure on him saying he was ready now. You feel what I'm saying? So all eyes on it. But my thing is, remember when USC was really good? You know what I mean? USC. Remember when USC? We talking about throwback stuff. We talking about the last 24 years. Where has USC been in that picture? Remember when they used to be really good? USC used to be really good. UCLA was decent. A lot of those teams were, the Pac-12, the old Pac-12 teams. They was pretty good for a while. and then they just fell off. Why do you think that is, Mr. California? Why do you think they fell off like that?
So I think it's because you tend. So I think what has happened is the times have caught up. Like when I think it's Andy Edgeworth, when Andy got to the Pac-12 and got to USC, he was able to. It was coming back around. Like it was like the spin the block type situation, right? To where there wasn't. Of course, there were players because at some point it became about Arizona, Oregon, and UCLA as far as the Pac-12. Those were the teams, the dominant teams that were there, especially when it came to the college hoop game. And then so Andy slowly but surely built them back up, started bringing people in. Of course, we took a hit when we had the situation with the government came down and started doing what they do, and we had a couple of coaches that were involved in that, were a part of that. And then of course that's when we lost Milton, we lost Michael Porter, and you know what I'm saying, and basically took a hit and took an L. So when you look at that, I think that was what hurt USC. That's what started, that what made it to where we was no longer going to be able to compete in the Pac-12 for the most part. So you fast forward now, Collier, you got to think with just of recent, we had both of the he plays in Cleveland now. Ethan, I don't know, I can't think of his name, but we had two brothers that basically played that was that were dominant. Of course, before then, we had a Guan Yu. So, you know what I'm saying? We've had, you know what I'm saying, people. It's just we haven't been able to put it together all at one time. And so I just think basically the Pac-12 and the players and the coaching staffs have been ahead of us. Got to think we had Nick Collier this year, Bronny James, Boo Ellis. We had, again, but it hasn't been. We've had good players, but it hasn't been the right fit of good players, I think, is what it is. And so I think the recruiting we've been able to bring in people. You got to think at one point, we was in the process of getting ready to recruit Mac McClung when he was having his issues in Texas Tech. He was looking at coming to USC. Peterson was brought in. So it's been different players, but I mean, UCLA has been what I take it as, I look at it as the Los Angeles Clippers, the LA Lakers. UCLA is the Lakers, USC is the Clippers. And you know what I'm saying, it's always, you know what I'm saying, now is always a situation where they're chasing or they're living in the shadow. And I mean, yeah, like we had people, DeMar DeRozan, we had Taj Gibson, like I said, DeMar DeRozan, Taj Gibson, OJ Mayo, Nikola Vucevic, Nick Young, like all those have been players at USC. But then you start naming UCLA players, Westbrook, Kevin Love, hell, way back in the day, the O'Bannon brothers.
That's what I was gonna say. Kevin Love not on that list. Like,
yeah, he was 100. Like, he was on there. I think Kevin Love in the top 40.
Kevin Love balled in college, and he balled his first like 5 or 6 years in the NBA. Like remember, he was a beast for Minnesota for the Timberwolves. Like, he was leading the league in rebounds. He was up there and blocked shots. I mean, and the way that he passed the ball, like you see the way the big men pass the ball now. Um, Kevin Love was one of those, man. Like, he was becoming, and especially when he could throw it all the way down court too. He's still on the money with those passes, like those full court passes, those football passes and stuff. So yeah, UCLA, in my mind, they've been so historical. It's like they were so historical one while. It's like the fall of Rome or something. You know what I mean? Like, the museums are still there, but that's all you got. Like, you know what I'm saying? No gladiators coming through the tunnel.
And you know what? I think what hurt us is the USC. I think the moniker or the stuff in which Pete Carroll put forth with the football team, I think expanded to all, saying USC type of stuff, where it became again they switches and now USC takes on the LA Laker type mystique to where glitz and glamour come here, come play here. And so people started doing that, but the one and done started hurting us. The DeMar DeRozan, OJ Mayo, you know what I'm saying? That started hurting us, and where we couldn't get, like they was only coming to get. So imagine if they were around now during the NIL, USC will be a juggernaut. Why? Because I'm very sure they, you know what I'm saying, they able NIL was killing it, but no one would stay around, and so at that point we wasn't getting it to so it just was one of those things. So but UCLA has in Arizona, I was looking at the thing in Arizona when Arizona had Gilbert Arenas, Richard Jefferson, was Trajan Langdon on that squad. It's like Arizona used to be stacked back in the day when they had Luke Olson coaching. And so, and again, those are the times in which I had to live through being a USC fan and watching, you know what I'm saying, all these Edgerton, you know what I'm saying, all this type of stuff. Luke Walden, they was balling. And then, so it's just one of those things. So it definitely was, we've had our time, but it was never really a situation to where we would have been dominant, except for the one year when the last couple of years we've been going to the tournament and made a little noise, like I said, when we had Porter and them and all that type of stuff. It was cool that we ended up losing in, I think, the Sweet 16 or something like that, and it was ousted. And from there, it has just been top ranked. Like this year, we started out number 4 in the rankings, and now we ain't nowhere to be found. So it's like, and then is it because, you know what I'm saying, when you look at it, do you think the Bronny's diagnosis and with him having the heart condition early in the year kind of like set him back in the time I set the team
doubt.
back? Okay.
No doubt. I mean, no doubt, right? Like, that's why it's hard to come down on the young man as far as, you know what I'm saying, as far as the expectations, but you got to worry about your health first. I'm sure that's been playing heavy on him, trying to get back out there. You know what I mean? So I'm not going not, but what I saw was when they moved like the shuffling. It looked like USC was better with Bronny coming off the bench. You know what I'm saying? Like the games that I've seen with my own eyes, I've seen them out there getting major minutes, but then I seen when they scale it back a little bit and he coming off the bench, it seemed like the team play a little bit better. The cohesiveness of the team is different, and that's probably because you coming in young, like he didn't start out with the rest of the team through all the practice drill, through all. I mean, you feel what I mean? So I think you take that into consideration, but you also take into consideration that he's a great player's kid, and a lot of times that's pressure within itself, right? Like you got to be somewhat decent, right? Like with Steph and Steph Curry, they had to be the two luckiest people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because even though their father was an NBA player, he wasn't considered great. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just saying. He was a good shooter. Don't get me wrong. You know what I'm saying?
But he's
Steph Curry was a good,
yeah,
right? But his jersey ain't hanging in nobody rafters. Is what I'm saying. I mean, you know what I mean? No, ain't no statue of him. No, I mean, you know what I'm saying? So when you look at it like, because it seems like the great players, we talked about this several times, but it's like the great players' kids don't seem to, they don't even be halfway. They don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't even be halfway. Um, I think, like Tim Hardaway Jr., I think he's a better shooter than Tim Hardaway as far as range, as far as, you know what I mean?
uh-huh.
But that's it. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't see I think what separates Tim Hardaway Senior from Tim Hardaway Jr. if you was to put on film and watch them play, I think the difference is up here, right? The mentality. I think the difference is up here and in here. Like Tim Hardaway had this thing where he was trying to win, and he was trying to, and with that crossover, he was trying to embarrass people. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? I think Tim Hardaway Jr. is just trying to find, he's just trying to find his way and stay, and keep it low key. I'm sure if he didn't have to tell you he was Tim Hardaway Jr., he wouldn't tell you. You know what I mean?
And then when you say that, it makes you think about like the Gary Paytons. Who else is out there now? Up and coming, you got Carmela's son that's coming. You got, of course, Matt Barnes, in which his kids, but when you think about it, like Matt Barnes is kind of like what we just talked about Steph Curry. His children aren't going to have much to come to follow up with. They just got to step in and play in their own lane. Additionally, Shaquille O'Neal's kids, you know what I'm saying, his youngest one of the ones that's playing. His daughter just got, you know what I'm saying, is going to Florida, University of Florida. So, you know what I'm saying?
That.
So you got that type of stuff, but it's like some of them, yes, it's going to be very hard to follow up. Rajon Rondo's son, as I seen the other day, him putting on. And then some of the ones you have now that's in the league, Kenyon Martin, DeJuan Wagner's kid at some point. So it's a few of them out there that when you look at it, are they going to be able to live up to the expectations? For some of them, not so much, because DeJuan Wagner was a monster in high school. He didn't do much in college. He went quick and came into the league and then fizzled out. So it's not much to follow up for the most part, except for you living up to the name that, you know, saying, and that has followed you going in. Unfortunately, like we just talking about, Jeffrey and Bronny still has an opportunity. Like they keep on putting up the graphic that says Jimmy Butler and Bronny were the same person in college at this point in their career as freshmen. And look at Jimmy Butler now. So of course I think it's gonna really pay dividends. He has to pay his dividends and has to put in that work to where presumably he's going to become a better product in state once it's all said and done. And then I'm saying, but it's hard because he's the offspring of who is quote unquote considered to be the GOAT, and is still doing it.
Like, don't mistake it for hate. I'm not saying I'm just saying right now what I've seen, the body of work, he's not ready, right? Like he's not prolific. Like man, come on. We just talked about some of the best ever. You said 100, but we talked about some. Come on, Melo freshman year, that had to be one of the best freshman years you ever seen, right? It's certain players that you look at and you say, man, yeah. I mean, that's why I was saying, like those, like some of the people that you named, they showed that they was ready. Like, boom, like maybe Melo could have skipped college, right, and went straight to the pros. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But he chose that route, right? Like, same thing with D Rose. Like, I think they changed the rules by the time D Rose was ready. But I'm just saying, like, like some of them, you can go straight out of high school and you say, oh, they ready for the game. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you could have skipped college. Same thing with Kyrie Irving, right? Like, Kyrie could have skipped college in my mind, right? He already had those handles.
Do you think LeBron would have been able to unseat Melo on that list had he went pro? Or
no, man.
You don't think it was in?
No, I think Melo. I think that it would have been good to see. You know what I'm saying? But I think Melo, like Syracuse was just gonna do it that year. I think LeBron. I think that. Now, don't get me wrong. I think if LeBron would have went to college 1 year, whatever college he went to, they probably would have been Final Four, or you know what I'm saying? Or they might have been the opposing team in the championship game if you don't have to meet. But I think what we saw Melo do, that was one of the best college years I ever seen. I put that up there with the year that Christian Laettner had that 1 year, where he was good, but then he hit some lucky shots, to take him all the way, to the promised land. But I think Jamal Mashburn had a great year like a great year in college. Like certain years, Glenn Big Dog, man, Big Dog had like two. I think he had like 2 good college years. Like that was like ridiculous, right? Because Big Dog to me was, I never seen too many score 50 points in a college game. Like sometimes the score you only got 50 points in the game.
Bruh, you know what I'm saying? I'm listening. I'm going back to memory lane and going like Marcus Camby.
Oh yeah,
like you know what I'm saying? Like
Joe Smith. Shout out Joe Smith.
Joe Smith. Yeah, going back and look at some of the all the players that have passed through and stuff like that, in which we have, I guess you could say, basically forgotten. Like we just talked about earlier, Jimmer Fredette. He was a problem in college. You know what I'm saying? Range. You know what I'm saying? He was the one of the Okafor, Emeka and Khalil Okafor. When you look at it, when he was a problem, you know what I'm saying. So all those people, Jabari Parker, like these players, it was problems in college, but for whatever reason, didn't pan out in the pros, or you know what I'm saying, maybe the one and done. Maybe the one and done was the reason why they didn't pan out. Like,
I think some of them weren't ready, right? some of them, man, you could tell when you would tell when these players are ready, right? Like if you've been watching Kentucky, like Kentucky this year, the way they score, they're gonna have it's gonna be. I don't know if it's gonna be this year's draft or future drafts, but a lot of those players that play from the starters and on the bench in Kentucky gonna be pros, and they're gonna be something serious to watch. Um, the way that they can put up points. I watched them put up like they can hit you with a in a college game they can hit you with 117, 120 points. It's like whoa, who can do that? Like who could do that in college? Like so yeah, it's always gonna be interesting though, like where you rank players shout out to Jimmer though. Like when you said Jimmer, I immediately thought of that Wayne verse with the Jimmer. You know, the Jimmer, the
Yeah.
synchronized swimmer or the synchronized swimmer or whatever man, whatever that verse is. I immediately thought of that Wayne verse. Like yeah, Jimmer was that dude, but it's a lot of players that you don't mention. The sidekick that played with Okafor. I like Khalil Elamine, right? Now I knew he wasn't gonna probably make it in the pros because his like for me it was his stature, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he was still good in college. You know what I mean?
Like Jameer Nelson.
Yeah, but
Jameer
Jameer
Nelson.
Nelson was pretty good on those Orlando teams that made them championship runs like that. You know, they went to the finals that one year, but you know, for a while in the league, you know, at least 3, 4 years, 5 years or so, he was pretty good in the league. Um, you know, I didn't hear you mention like Jamal Crawford. Oh, because that's he older than that, right? I forgot.
Yeah.
Jamal probably
But
older
no,
than
yeah, he wasn't on there. It was a couple of other ones and stuff like that. Lonzo Ball, Jalen Suggs, Ben Simmons, Russell Westbrook, Rudy Gay, DeJuan Blair, which threw me for a second, Malcolm Brogdon, CJ McCollum and at Lehigh, Nick Collison, Andrew Wiggins, Jason Tatum was in the top 80, 85, 86. Jared Butler, Kate Cunningham, Paulo Banchero, Colin Sexton, and then like 191 through 100 is Fran Van Fleet, Drew Gooden, Grayson Allen, Marcus Howard, Anthony Edwards, Frank Mason III, Jabari Parker, Carl Towns, and Willie Cauley Stein will finish it up. So it was a few of them in there when you start looking at it and taking consideration. It was talking about their prestigiousness in college for the most part, which you can.
Shout out Grayson Allen, man. He having a season
Oh
like
yeah, he's not
playing good ball. Michael Porter Jr. playing real good ball right now. Like I'm like, when is young man gonna miss? Like the last few games, Michael Porter Jr.
24
been
points on the other day in the first quarter. And so
and
and
they
he's
shooting the
struggling.
lights out.
So what it's saying is just as we get there and go into the NBA, and what it's saying is we trust you. You know what I'm saying? Like it's saying we trust you. Like you know what I'm saying is putting you already got Booker that's out there. You got KD that's out there. When Bradley Beal is there, you got him. He can shoot. And now you got Grayson Allen. That now the floor is spread completely. That's a problem where someone like Nurkic can pull down 31 because everyone's on the outside guarding the shooters. And the floor is spread. So one-on-one, Nurkic is punishing who else he's up against because they, you know, what I'm saying when they're knocking them down, they're knocking them down, which adds a different level to Phoenix. And now you start looking at it, you got Royce O'Neal that's still there, and you got still Brown that comes off the bench. Like Phoenix potentially, no, I'm thinking Denver. I'm sorry, Brown can play for Denver, but you got Phoenix, you got people that can play and come off the bench. Hell, we just saw
Gordon. Eric Gordon is,
yeah.
but you know, like I'm impressed with I'm impressed with the Grayson Allen because this is a surprise. Like that makes to me that makes Phoenix like after seeing for me it's a revelation. So after witnessing this revelation, I'm like, oh, Phoenix got a chance to you know they already had a chance to win the thing, but now I'm like, man, their chances are really
Yeah,
increasing.
for real.
If Grayson Allen is gonna play like that, they're gonna be tough. Now, do you think that's by design though? As far as or Grayson Allen was that even a surprise to his own team and you know coaching staff and teammates and stuff the way that he playing? Because
So I think they went and poached him or got him from Milwaukee for that exact reason. So, but it's like a year or two later, you know what I'm saying, instant because this is the Grayson Allen we thought, or I think it was a somewhat of what we seen of Grayson Allen in Milwaukee but of course he also carried the moniker of the bad guy in a sense, or the dirty player and all that type of stuff as well.
Yeah.
Kind of like has, saying, it might have got, now he's with, as opposed to being with Giannis, he's with KD, saying, Booker, saying, all the others to probably maybe embrace him. Was like, hey, fam, shoot, saying, this is what we brought you here for. This is what we need you for. And right now he's showing that he don't leave him open. He's splashy. If he was in Golden State, he'll be a splash brother right now. There'll be a whole problem at 3 points of the court. So I think it was by design. I think they went for it. Now, we didn't know he was going to be this hot, but I think they actually brought him in to be that additional scorer, saying, someone that can create a shot for himself, a wily veteran that can shoot. And so my life in me, I continue to wonder, why is it that LA can't find shooters when they're out there? Like, why aren't we playing for them? We go and get shooters when they're like 4 or 5 years past their prime and expect them to do something. Like, we don't ever have anyone that's in position.
It's the tone of LA, the current LA status, right? Because before they always had shooters. You had the Oris, you had the Derek Fishers, you had certain shooters that could shoot the rock. In recent times, I think you traded a lot of the shooters, right? Because they were underdeveloped. They weren't developed enough to play alongside the Kings. I mean, you gotta, the mind state is we want to win, right? So you tinkered and you played around with these different things. You did the old, you went young. You started out young, and then you start replacing those young pieces with some veterans here and there, and then you experimented. That one year was a total scrap a couple of years ago or whatever with all those old players. There was too many old players, in my opinion. That was a scrap, even though they all Hall of Fame. They all will be Hall of Famers, but that was a scrap year. That was just like the Kings saying, I want to reach back and play with all my buddies one last time or something. You know what I mean? And maybe we can get one. But the Lakers' problem to me ain't finding the talent, because we saw what Palico can do. It's what the talent does when they get there, because you know the projection of some of these players. You know what I mean? Like, I think some people can't handle the LA pressure, that spotlight, so it affects their game. Right? That stuff's in your head. Where you playing and who you playing alongside, and what it means to put on that uniform. Not everybody can put on that Laker uniform. Like, I think we always go back to Kobe. I think Kobe showed you that plenty of time when like he used to bash some of his teammates, right? Like, this guy don't even belong as a Laker. The talking of the Dwight Howard, Smush Parker career never recovered, by the way. And Smush still hold a grudge, by the way.
Yeah, I can feel it, because you basically you drugged me. You know what I'm saying? You drugged me. So, like Drunk is saying, I think Vogel and now would start thinking about the Lakers and where the Lakers are right now, and Frank Vogel where Phoenix is right now. Frank Vogel is a huge part of that. That's a lot of credit.
Man, yeah, Frank Vogel. Well, to me, he's impressive. He was all right in Indiana, right? Up until when Paul George got hurt, then they went down a little bit, but they were still competitive. But him going to the Lakers and winning that championship, I think it showed Vogel in a different light, that he can coach under extreme circumstances. Because I never looked at him like that before, right? But now what he's doing in Phoenix, I'm like, hey, Vogel got something to work with. I think I don't know if I guess when you look at it, Kevin Durant has played with. He was coached by Kerr, so I guess you know what I'm saying. But other than that, I think for the rest of them, this is the best coaches they've had.
So right as we was getting on, we was having a little bit of the conversation in reference to the Boston Celtics, who played last night, losing by 6 points to the defending champions in Denver. And so you said something. What was it that you said exactly?
That Boston looked like they're gonna be trouble, man. Like, because even though they lost their last two games, they not losing because the other team is beating them. Like, I didn't see Denver beat them last night. I saw the Celtics miss those free throws. So I'm like, woohoo! And Tatum had a bad game. You know what I'm saying? Missed free throws and Tatum having a bad game is why Denver won that game last night. Don't get me wrong, Jokic played great. I like Michael Porter Jr., but I'm just saying, did you see Drew Holiday? If Drew Holiday is gonna play that way, and if Porzingis is gonna shoot the three the way that he's shooting the ball, it's gonna be a problem with the Celtics all the way around. And Jalen Brown, that's the way that's the way I want him to play all the time. The way he played, man, keep going. He had 41 points, and he missed free throws. But the fact is, he was so aggressive. He kept going to the basket. He wasn't just hanging out at the 3-point line, stuff like that. I mean,
he's all over the court. And so, yeah, and so my quarrel I had with it, just like we spoke about, like you said, Jaylen Brown missed free throws. He was 50%, 7 of 14 from the charity strike. That's a problem. Like, you know what I'm saying? For me, that's a problem. I would sit up and pull my hair out as a coach, going 7 for 14 from the charity strike. Of course, everyone else, for the most part, was pretty proficient. Tatum was 3 or 4. Porzingis 3 or 4. Derek White 1 for 1. Al Horford was 2 for 2, but Jaylen Brown, 14 points. Like you just said earlier, if he gets those free throws, it's a different game. Like, you know what I'm saying? But you go to the strike because, like you said, he doesn't sit at the 3-point line. He goes to the cup and he draws fouls. But if you're not taking advantage of them fouling you, then it's not going to, then what, you know what I'm saying? What's the significance of doing it? But of course, overall they was 64% from the free throw on 16 or 25 shooting. Denver, however, was 95%, only missing one free throw on the night, and that one free throw is from Justin Holiday. So it's like the difference in those free throws: 21 for 22, 18 for 25. They shot about the same amount. We'll see a whole different ball game at the end of it. But like you said, Jay Brown dropped 41, of course, 14 with 14 rebounds to boot. Jokic again, 12 points, 11 assists, 12 rebounds, 32 points. What was another triple-double in which now he has passed LeBron James on the triple-double list with 139 triple-doubles. That's saying something, in my opinion. LeBron is still
already.
He's still active. Like, you came in, what, maybe 10 years after? I don't know how long the difference in them, but you've already passed him up as an active player, and he's already had this 139, of course, and now presumably is looking like at this point it's looking like Russ's record is going to fall at some point.
At some point, but I don't know how long Jokic is gonna play. But I can tell you, Jokic, man, I'm so impressed when I watch him play. The growth and the way that he moves out there on the court, like dude is not the greatest dribbler. He's not the great. He just does enough to where you can't touch him. Like he's so fundamentally sound. Like he ain't crossing people over. He ain't doing that. He just get to his spot and shooting over a 7'4", 7'5", however tall Porzingis is, shooting over that dude like it was easy, like it was nothing.
The same thing he did AD.
Like you ain't even here, right? Like you're not even guarding me, but you guarded me. I don't even, like, hey, Porzingis. Sometimes you need to put your hands up, like, because that's what I've never seen Porzingis do really is put his hands up. The old school guard your man, 7-foot guard your man, put your hands up, make yourself big and tall. I didn't really see that from Porzingis a whole lot, and maybe that's because of the style of play or the way that Jokic can hit you with that step back turnaround.
I was gonna say maybe Jokic is definitely a tough cover.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and for real, and that's the funny thing. Like it's like he effortlessly gets triple doubles. It's like, I guess I'm gonna go out here and play today. And so that's why, and that would be the only reason, in my opinion, in which he would not catch Russ is because, like you said, you don't know how long he's gonna play. At some point, he's gonna probably be like, I'm done with this game. It's not fun to me anymore, and decide like I'm done, and just you know what I'm saying. And walk out like my man walked out from the ring that time when he was supposed to fight. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm not going to even do this. So that's and that's like what Drunk was saying. That's how I see Jokic. Like, but you know what I'm saying? But this dude is a walking triple-double. Another walking triple-double. Luka Doncic dropped his 4th consecutive triple-double, 30-point triple-double, not just a triple-double, 30-point triple-double consecutively. Like, when you look at it, the international players are really beasting in this.
They're
Luka
well-rounded players. These are not just players. They're well-rounded. They can score, pass, and rebound.
and Luka and Jokic are cream of the crop. And then honestly, I might take some slack of this. Victor and Giannis are next tier. Like Giannis is it becomes a monster here and there, but he's not Luka or
No.
he's not Luka
If
or Jokic.
Giannis, now, if Giannis had a shot, we wouldn't be talking. In my mind, we wouldn't be talking Jokic. We wouldn't be talking Luca. We wouldn't be talking nothing but Giannis, right? Like he would truly be the Greek freak, like out of this world, if he had a shot.
Which may be something for him to work on. But I mean, his dominance, saying pressure, he's another one that misses free throws. I don't know. That's like the Achilles heel of all superstars. Like you can say, except for like Steph and them, but it's like everyone else is like, you can't, like Steph is a problem, but he doesn't have that much height, 6'3". Well, you know what I'm saying? But he can do everything else. Giannis, he doesn't hit free throws.
Yeah,
what's
make him a liability.
Luka is a liability on defense. Like it's like no one has the complete package.
But what I saw last night, the Heat are going to be a tough team in the playoffs, people. Yeah, they're going to be a tough team in the playoffs. But then when you look at that matchup last night, Dallas can be scary, even though they right now they sitting in eighth, I think, in the standings. That's how tough the West is. Well, the East is getting that tough too, right? Like except for when you get to 9 and 10 in the East, those teams they got losing records or whatever. But 1 through 8, they all got winning records. The West is different because of 10 teams with like winning records, or 10, 11 teams with winning records. I think the Lakers are sitting in the 10th spot, Warriors in the ninth, and then you got the Mavericks in the 8th spot. Like, how do you have Luka and Kyrie and you 8th seed? Like, I was like, hey, they can blow any team out at any time, right?
Mm-hmm.
At any time, they can blow you out. They're gonna be a problem in the playoffs, though, that I didn't see coming.
So, of course, Drunker says, speaking of international players, Gilbert Arenas said European players are the reason why the NBA defense fell off because they spread the floor. Do you think that to be true from your opinion?
Some of it's true, but not really. I think it's just too many skilled players. It's like, yo, you come in and you say you're a defensive specialist, but who are you stopping these days? Um, when Patrick Beverly first came into the league, he was a defensive stopper. The league was different when he first came in, right? Like in the last decade or so, the game has changed. Like you got too many skilled players. So yeah, a little bit of the European players may have an effect on it, but overall, it just comes down to you come in and you say, man, I'm good at defense. Then you see how skilled the other players are now. Like from 1 through 12, most of these guys can handle the ball now on these NBA teams, on these NBA rosters. Most of them can dribble. Most of them, So you're starting to see a different breed. Speaking of, while we on the NBA, the No Bull Tour or whatever the heck it was called or whatever. Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant and Luke Longley and those. You know, um, I bring that up to say this. Um, Man, don't get old and bitter, people. For real. Like all these people had decent careers, so the No Bull Tour, I don't even. What are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like that's like the stop it. Hey, Scotty, I'm starting. I mean, what do you think? Scotty's a legend. Does he need to pull all these answers? Does he need to do all this stuff that he's doing lately?
So I guess every person have their reasons, and it's the stories in the details. And so it's like I know I seen the situation where they was talking about it. You're talking about Jordan, but yet you're sitting up on the panel with his breads on. So you know what I'm saying, which is like, you know what I'm saying. So I think it has to be like last night. I watched the State of the Union, right? Watch the State of the Union, and while watching the State of the Union, I peeped what the Republicans were doing in their mannerisms. Of course, you can see Mike Johnson because he's Speaker of the House, but he's he's Republican and he's sitting behind President Biden, and so I watched like his mannerisms. We watched his mannerisms and see what he did, how he reacted, and stuff like that. And so it's like it was like some of the stuff, but then you see the reaction in other cases, like when they're talking about the military, when they're talking about racism, when they talk about that, he has no choice, regardless of what his mindset is, or regardless of his affiliation, but to admonish what it is that the president is saying, because it's not reaching just saying the parties. We're talking about from a whole perspective. So you have to take that in consideration. So he stood up and clapped and said whatever, saying so certain things. So I think that's the same thing you have to look at in this situation. In state is, regardless of how y'all felt about Mike and what he did, in state is you were a part of that. And all you can do is like, let's keep it 100. Speak on what you need to speak on, you know what I'm saying? And then the other stuff, take in consideration, like you're a champion, presumably because of this. Same thing with Mike. He's a champion.
That's why I'm like the no bull. I'm like the no bull tour is bull.
I think Jordan, Scotty, all of them still, and they just be laughing behind the scenes, collecting bags off the fake drama. He's like, you think they're still cool, and they just be laughing, and which can be the case, you know what I'm saying? In state, like it's like, yeah, but it's like all this type of stuff is like that's, you know what I'm saying, to sit up and go back and forth, and it's content. In state is content, like Drunk said, right. He's going to build something, and that's basically where it goes. So it comes there, but it's like in state is like you can't like.
So my question is, so that's my question. Like 5 years, 10 years after LeBron retires, you got to worry about teammates of his doing this, or you know what I'm saying? 20 years later, you got to worry about teammates doing. I mean, I'm just saying, like,
you AD saying that LeBron never handed him over the torch. You're gonna see Rajon, Dwight Howard, and Kyle Kuzma. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, bro.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. What I look at is Horace Grant. You won 3 with the Bulls. You went on. You won 1 with the Lakers. You're a 4-time champion. We know Pippen got 6 rings. Okay, but here's my thing. I remember the Scottie Pippen that went to Portland. 0 for 16 in the fourth quarter. 0 for whatever in that. What was it? Game 7 against the Lakers against Kobe and Shaq. 0 for 16. You were a part of that. Like those things never come up, right? Like, so what does that tell you? Like, if you don't want to be in Mike's shadow, then stop mentioning Mike so much. I mean, you might want to stop mentioning him so much. I mean, Scottie Pippen is Hall of Fame. I don't think any of them have to do what they're doing. You know what I mean? I don't think they have to. But maybe it is just to get the bags. Maybe it is just something, to clear up some of the rumors or something. I mean, I don't know what it's all about, but I do know. You still hanging on to the last dance? That was 4 years ago.
As Mario Space said, Horace Grant's still crying about Mike not letting him eat on the flight. So last night, I think what is a front runner and what should probably be the play of the year, if y'all checked it out, seen it, watched the Minnesota game, or even just watched the highlights.
Ooh, the block.
Anthony Ant-Man, as they called him, missed the free throw, right? Missed the free throw, which should basically be a ice the game for him. Misses the free throw. Of course, he sat there with the hand out, but goes like Rory says, goes and walks, runs down, checking heat-seeking missile, balls up, balls down, hit his head on the rim, kind of like knocked himself a little off balance, which he came down and hit the floor. That is what defense. And he sit up and said, if you watch them and you can read his lip, this is what I do. This is what I do. And showed that. You know what I'm saying? That is type. So I asked this question, especially y'all that's out there now. Do you think because Ja Morant is absent, this has allowed Ant-Man to take the center stage and show he's a young talent that everyone needs to be checking for?
I don't think it got nothing to do with Ja. I think it's got to do with his mindset this year coming into this season. He had a couple of incidents, in the offseason and stuff like that. It looked like he's channeling all his focus to being the best basketball player he can. I do think that if John Morant was playing, then it'll be a dual type thing, for the highlight reels and stuff. But other than that, I think Anthony Edwards, I mean, he was going to be. We saw the potential, and now we're starting to see as he continues to grow into that space into a superstar. Man, he unbelievable. To miss the free throw and then to have the presence of mind to say, "Hey, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to block this shot," um, which I had to look at it a couple of times because I was like, did the ball hit the backboard first, which would have made that goaltending. I mean, what I'm saying? It was so quick
Yeah, he
that
got it quick and knocked it down because I looked at it too. I was like, but it's just like what Maurice was saying. If the rim stopped him, he probably would have been higher had he not hit his head on the rim. He couldn't get above it, front of it. But I mean, it was a hell of a stop, and you know what I'm saying, and drilling, and he came down and basically, you know what I'm saying, that was all she wrote. So he put in the work, like you said, ran it down, showing that he's a huge star in Minnesota. You got to take in consideration now they're without Karl Anthony Towns for the foreseeable future due to the fact that he has a meniscus tear and he's probably expected to be out a month. But even he gave love to his big man Rudy Gobert, who's like, hey, running up and down the court. You know what I'm saying? Dude, like Rudy, this, you know what I'm saying, this is your job now. This is what you do. You know what I'm saying? And that's basically where he's at now. So it's when you have that, where of course that caused him, he had to do a high a high jump euro around, in which he thought wasn't there, and he timed it, seen it, and put it away. So of course, shout out to Minnesota without Karl Anthony Towns. Go ahead and reclaim the number one spot in the league. Correction, in the West, as we talk about a lot, the West. But Minnesota is currently number one, a half game in front of the Oklahoma City Thunder, who I think got some fight left in them. Denver is just a game back from them. Game back from Minnesota. The Clippers are 3 games back. So again, the top 4 teams in the West are only separated by 3 games, and then the top 10 teams in the West are separated by 10.5 games, with the Los Angeles Lakers currently tied with the Golden State at the bottom at the 9 and 10 spots with 10.5 games behind Minnesota, just 3.5 games behind Phoenix, who's currently sitting in the 6th seed. The Pelicans was hot streaking for a second. They're 5th in the 5th seed, just behind at 6.5 games. Sacramento, like you said, is when you look at it, Dallas, Sacramento, Phoenix, New Orleans, the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Thunder, and the Timberwolves, under the old way of how we used to do things, would be the playoff teams, which is saying a lot. But the simple fact that you have the Kings and the Mavericks that want to potentially, if this was the end of it, would have to do battle just to sit up and see who they're going to face off against, who the loser will face off against out of a game against the Lakers and the Golden State Warriors, is crazy at this point. So I guess when you look at it when you look at the West, it really, the whole play-in really does do exactly what it was meant to do. Add excitement, stir it up, or whatever case like that.
this is what's going to happen. I think the play in the first round of the Western Conference, it might make it easier for the championship teams to make the run after the first round, right? The
Mm-hmm.
team that eventually wins the West. And I say that from look at it. A lot of all these teams are championship contenders, or could probably win it up. So I mean, you just said it. The Lakers might have to knock off the Warriors, or the Warriors might have to knock off the Lakers just to get into the playoffs, right? Just to get the 8th seed or something. Um, same thing. Same thing with the Mavericks and the Kings, right? The Kings was like number 3 last year or something. Like they had a good record last year. I think they was a third seed last year or something like that. So yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough on all those teams. Um, but I'm looking at, hey, that first round, the 8th seed could upset the 1 seed depending on who the 8th seed is, right? Like, so you never know what's gonna happen as far as that West. I think the first round will determine a lot moving forward. After that, I think the Western Conference champion might have an easier road after the first round because everybody gonna be exhausted. You're looking at probably a lot of. Could you see every series going to 7 games?
Ooh, has that ever happened? Like, when was the last time that happened?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's ever happened in my lifetime. I'm just saying, but can you see in one conference every game going 7 games? I mean, every series going 7 games because that's you're probably looking pretty good at that. The odds of that are pretty good.
On the East, from on the course in the East perspective, the Boston Celtics are still running away with it. Currently up 7.5 games over the Milwaukee Bucks, which the top 1 through 6 are separated by 13 games, and then 20 games separates the top 10, which is completely different in a whole half difference. Miami sits at the 6th seed, but battling with Philadelphia, as we have watched Philadelphia fall from second to fourth to now seventh in the East, and probably presumably continue to fall. But they're currently tied with the Miami Heat with 13 games behind 13 games apiece. But the Heat on the tiebreaker. And then Indiana Pacers sit just a game behind the 6th-ranked Heat. And then, of course, Chicago, who seems to be coming on pretty strong, currently sitting at 17.5 games out of the 6th seed. And then Atlanta bringing it at the end of it with the 10th seed, just 2.5 games behind Chicago at this point, which still makes it a 9-10. Which it would be if the league started, if the playoffs were starting now, it'll be Chicago and Atlanta playing their game, winner going on to play the loser between Philadelphia and Indiana, to make out the 7th and the 8th seed for the most part. I see you shaking your head there. You have a disdain with the Chicago Bulls?
Yeah, it's disappointing to see them put all of they got talent. You got the talent. Why is it so hard to find the right combination of players? Like I'm sorry, I'm starting to wonder: is it a coaching thing? Is it a player thing? I mean, because looking at your roster, Chicago, y'all should be balling. You should not be bottom. Same thing with Atlanta to me. Atlanta, you got enough. Like, why are you 5 or 6 games under 500? Like, I'm not understanding the teams that are underachieving out there. It's like, what are you doing? Um, I get it. You can't say. See, my thing is with Atlanta and with some of these other, you can't put them like the Rockets. You can say they young, right? The Orlando Magic, you can say they're young, right? So yeah, of course there's gonna be some slippage, but some of these other like Chicago don't have that excuse. You got a lot of veterans in that locker room. You got a lot of players that's been balled out in their careers in that locker room. So you know, you know, you got to do better, Chicago. I'm disappointed.
So I wonder, was the loss of Levine to the injury, has that been what's put them in position and made it better? Because now you have less of a jostling between your all-stars or your superstars, to where it's clear and concise who that person is. DeMar DeRozan. With Zach Levine there, then you have to kind of like, I don't think they meshed well. The chemistry wasn't good. And that has kind of like been a issue, or it was holding an issue for them. But it seems, I mean, currently like I said, they're in the 9th seed. But I think it's more defined that, okay, DeMar DeRozan is the man.
Let's okay. Let's really address the elephant in the room. Levine and DeRozan ain't had that. They apparently ain't on the same page and they ain't had that talk. I mean, you can say whatever you want to say in your press conferences and all that stuff, but we can see the writing on the wall, right? Like, did you see the power struggle that Minnesota just went through last year? And you see who won that, right? Anthony Edwards and Carl Anthony Towns. You know, you butt heads, you get into it, this is that. But now you see the pecking order, right? This is Anthony Edwards' team, no doubt. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you gotta define those things. You know what I mean? Like, let's face it. Look at the Celtics. We know it's Jason Tatum, right? We know Jason Tatum is the front man. Well, we know Brown ain't no slouch. Don't get me wrong, but we know when it all comes down to it, Jason Tatum is the front man. I mean, in Chicago, you still up it like you said. They just can't get a grasp on it. Nah, they ain't had that conversation. You know, they ain't had that. They ain't had that Kobe and Shaq heart to heart. Like, this is my team. Like, no, no, it's not. I mean, you feel what I'm saying? Like, they haven't. They didn't have that. I mean, and they need to have that in order for clarity, right? I mean, look at Paul George out there with in LA. What did he say? I defer to Kawhi. Kawhi is, you know what I'm saying? Kawhi is A, I'm B. I mean, you feel what I'm saying? You have those lines drawn. They've been drawn everywhere. You talk Jordan Pippen, you talk, you know what I'm saying, when it was LeBron and D Wade, we knew it was Bron here, and then D Wade, whether he wanted to accept the role or not, he was, I mean, you feel what I'm saying? I mean, you have to understand. everybody. I mean, it happens all the time. It's the NBA. That's what we do, right? You know what I'm saying? Like when it was Lillard and McCollum, who was the man? Lillard, right? I mean, so I mean, it's always defined when it comes to these teams. Why are the Bulls having such a hard time defining it?
And I think that's some of the same stuff in which was even going on in New Orleans with Zion and Brandon Ingram, to where it's like, say there was, so all these places where you have young talents, no one wants to defer. Everyone wants to be, someone wants to be the man, as opposed to say sticking it out and be like, you know what, this is what's going on. Same thing when you think about in Minnesota with Jimmy Butler, or where Jimmy Butler goes. You got to think Jimmy Butler didn't have the success until he got to Miami, to where clearly and concisely he was the man, and he didn't have anyone he had to go and jostle with, or everyone was decided to delegate to him. Bam Adebayo. It was like, you know what I'm saying? You got it. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. Everywhere else, Jimmy had to sit up, and except for maybe in Chicago, he had to defer. He had to sit back. He goes to Minnesota. Now you going with Cat and Wiggins, and it's like, you know what I'm saying? No one wants to sit up and give him the props. He goes to Philly. Tobias Embiid is like what's going on, and now he's in Miami. The deference happens, but the team isn't built like the other teams in which he played on. They had the players, so it's like, you know what I'm saying, you kind of can see it for in-state where that, you know what I'm saying, that's where you play, where it happens at.
Yeah, I think for me it's okay. So the biggest takeaway from looking at these players, and anytime we mention Jimmy Butler, we always got to keep in mind that when he started out as a young player in Chicago, he didn't have nearly half the skills that he have right now. I mean, and if he say that he did, then come on. And then he was great, scrappy. He was. I mean, the effort was always there. The effort was never the problem. But he worked himself into a skilled player. He knows how to get his shots, how to hit his spots. I mean, he's become. I mean, for what the NBA is and what it allows you to do, he's maximized his potential. Not only that, he's exceeded some of his expectations. When you talk Jimmy Butler, uh, it's hard to, like, and you can see why it was a hard fit for him to round into the player that he became. But I think some of those stops helped that, right? Like being in Minnesota probably helped that, and then being in a situation where you in Philly with a Joel Embiid and all the potential is there, but then they choose Tobias Harris over you. That's got to be like, whoa, hold up, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that adds fuel to your fire, right? Like I'm gonna prove something, and I'm gonna make Philly feel this, and I'm gonna make people feel it. But I also think. Um, um, Jimmy Butler's advantage is that he wants to learn and he wants to be better. When you come in like that, and when you coachable, um, those are the biggest things that you always hear about some of the greats, right? They were coachable, you know what I mean, and they were willing to take the instruction and the guidance. So I think that's slept on about Jimmy Butler. That's also being slept on about the Brandon Ingrams. You mentioned the Brandon Ingrams. Uh, Brandon, I saw his potential when he was a Laker.
Mm-hmm.
He could ball. He was young. I think he came in the league at like 18 or something, like 18 or 19. He was young, and he grew into what he is right now. Um, but as a shooter, we know it's Zaire. We know overall the Pelicans wanted to be Zaire's team. Um, but then if you Brandon Ingram, can you follow him and say, "Hey man, you ain't been healthy that long to be," you know what I'm saying? Like let's see what your health do first. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like I wonder, do players really have those conversations with each other, like for real? While we laughing about it, do they really talk like, like I know the old school could be a little chippy, like this ain't the old school. I know players ain't going around slapping each other like the Oakley days and stuff like that. I'm just saying, like, do they really have the heart to heart conversations and say, man, we need to do this or you need to do that? Like for instance, Kyrie and Luca. Have they ever? I wonder if they ever just had a conversation where it's like, hey, you know, hey, is like Kyrie saying, hey, Luca, I do what I got to do to help you win here and there, but it's your team. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I wonder, do they have those conversations? Um, Paul George did it publicly. That was, like in an interview.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if him and Kawhi had a conversation about that when they first linked up. You know what I mean? Um, do you think that stuff is necessary to
Yeah,
have those conversations?
I think it's very much so necessary, because if you're not, then you're going to continually have it. Like you're saying, like they say, some of these players have huge egos, right? And so with that ego, you start to look at it like we might look at Kawhi Leonard and think like Kawhi Leonard isn't that type, but is he, or is he not that type? We got to think. You know, saying single-handedly destroyed the Lakers organization that year with his free agency because they were waiting for him, and he strung them along till everything was dried up. I don't think Rob Pelinka actually had a plan for going forth, and just figured that okay, he's going to probably choose us, and then it was strung along. And in my opinion, the whole thing he knew he was going to the Clippers, and he knew he was going to be playing with Paul George. But it's like, well, let the market dry up, because by the time they decided to go forth and start doing it was nothing really left of any value for the most part, and so he bamboozles us.
I was gonna say, ain't that kind of called like taking out the competition before we even compete,
Yeah,
right?
that's basically like I said.
Like,
Brilliant. You know what I'm saying? It was brilliant. I don't fault him for it, but I was like, basically, you know what I'm saying? It did it. Like I honestly think that like we talking about that mystique that the Lakers hold, like everyone wants to come
the
here.
Lakers didn't miss nothing without Kawhi. The Lakers still up. They still got a championship out of the deal. Like since these
True,
moves
but
been made.
so I look at it as with Kawhi, we could have still got the championship and still be able to get championships after the
Actually,
fact.
I think with Kawhi, y'all probably could have got a couple, but he ain't been healthy. Like healthy Kawhi, I think y'all could have got a couple or something. Like I even think the Clippers could have already won. When we saw they went to the Western Conference Finals, they was gonna beat Phoenix that year with Kawhi. Like without Kawhi, it happened the way it's supposed to happen. But with Kawhi, they was gonna run through Phoenix, and you never know who would have won that with Giannis. Giannis versus Kawhi.
Yeah.
Like you never know who would have won that one. But take nothing away from them players. But I'm just saying, like sometimes you get the lucky breaks, right? And things been breaking the Lakers' way. You know what I'm saying? Even with the Clippers being more talented, it's still LA. It's still the Lakers because the Lakers they was in the Western Conference Finals last year. They won a championship 4 years ago or whatever in the bubble. I mean, so I think LA. I think the Lakers still big brother and they still smacking little brother around um, until the Clippers with this team that y'all assembled get one. Get one. And while we on the subject, let me just throw this out there. The Bucks, y'all playing much better ball, even though y'all lost by 30 to the Warriors a few nights ago. I'm not gonna hold that against y'all because those things happen from time to time. The Warriors lost by 50 before that, so you know what I'm saying. So but Doc Rivers, I'm just gonna say, man, okay, I see your plan now. They starting to play ball, and I had that question before: was it the coaching or was it the players? The effort of the players, and we starting to see that all that stuff starting to line up. I still worry about them in the playoffs from the perspective. What you gonna do when you have how you gonna score points if if you have to sit Giannis or if there's foul trouble with Giannis or Lillard, where your scoring and stuff gonna come from when you got Pat Bev on the floor. Um, it's just certain questions that they're gonna have to answer. You know what I mean? Um, in the playoffs, and I think that when you playing a team, potentially you got to beat a team 4 times, and you playing them night after night. I think that's where the difference is gonna be. You ain't got to beat them 1 time; you got to beat them 4 times, and I think that might be a problem for Milwaukee. Even though I'm gonna still ride with Milwaukee, I don't like the Doc Rivers move, but I'm gonna ride with Milwaukee anyway and say that they gonna come out of the East. Somehow they gonna upset Boston. I don't know how. Somebody gonna upset Boston along the way, maybe. But I don't know. Like I said, Boston looking too good. You know who we not talking about in the East though?
What was that?
The Cavaliers. Um, they playing pretty decent basketball even with Donovan Mitchell in street clothes right now. So that's got to be a plus side for the If you the Cavaliers, that's got to be a big up. Um, I don't even know who the Cavaliers coach is to be honest, man. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Forgive me, people, but I don't even know who their coach is. But he's doing an excellent job. Keep doing what you're doing in Cleveland. Um, I'm disappointed in the Pacers. I think you talked about that before. The Pacers. Um, they were so high up, and now they falling. They falling. I think the chemistry that I'm starting to think they messed up their whole chemistry, making the Siakam move, trading the Buddy Hill and all that. Because Buddy Hill still ain't found himself in Philly neither. Um, I don't know. I thought the Siakam move would be a good move. Maybe it will be if they get into the playoffs, but it's a big if right now. If you don't maintain that 7, I mean you still got some games to go. They may drop all the way out of the playoff picture the way they've been playing, and they losing. They're not losing by blowouts. They losing close games, but you're still losing.
And again, Buddy Hield is another one of those in which I take a look at to say that there that if he would have been in LA, like it was probably a little too little, too late. But I mean, I digress. Of course, he's not. He's in Philly now. But a couple of other things before we go in and talk about a little bit about football, what's happening in the NFL with all the releases and all that type of stuff, and the changing of the guards. And so a couple of things came up, in which I had, of course, like I said, I keep a look on some things, and some good conversations actually came up, which I like to ask some of these questions here, or I derive some questions from these said from these posts. But the first one is Gilbert Arenas. Of course, we know No Chill Gil tends to say and speak on a bunch of things. JB Bickerstaff. So we know Gil says a lot of things, right? But one of the latest things he said, I don't know if I agree with it completely or if I can write it off. His statement was LeBron James has not done enough yet to be claimed as a great Laker.
I said that already. Didn't I say that already? Like I think that was a private conversation between me and you. I think we had that conversation now. But come on, he has it. As far as Lakers standards, right? I mean, I'm just saying, like, because we were talking about whether his jersey gonna be hanging or he gonna get a statue and all that. Like, yeah, I like what Gilbert. I think I saw some of that where Gilbert was talking about Shaq 8 years or whatever, but that's 3 rings in 8 years with Shaquille O'Neal. That's a whole difference than these 6 years. And that's what I was saying. LeBron's been there 6 years. They won one championship, made it to a couple of the Western Conference Finals this last year or whatever. But the injuries and I mean, what we gonna do? Count the injury season? You know what I'm saying? The injury season. I mean, I just started to wonder where's the cutoff. That's what I was asking you. Like, what's the cutoff? Like LeBron deserves a statue somewhere. Probably wherever the Hall of Fame at, or whatever. I mean, I'm just saying. But what organization does he? I mean, Cleveland because they never won, and then they won one, and that's the only one that they got, and that's probably gonna be the only one that they get for a while, right? Like, so I can see Cleveland maybe, but his Miami stop and his Lakers stop. I mean, I don't think he done enough. I agree with Gilbert. I don't think he done enough.
So, and I see somebody because I even say Commissioner Myers from the NBA state that he needs one more. He needs to get another chip outside the bubble. A chip outside the bubble will do that for him.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. As a Laker, he may not have scored that point, but as a Laker, he became the first and only player to 40,000 points. He became the all-time leading scorer in NBA history. He surpassed a couple of people within that time frame. So I don't know. I mean, he's won a championship as a Laker. The last championship as a Laker. And is it fair to say he did it with less?
He did what with less?
Win his championship.
Yeah, that's tough. Well, he had AD. You know what I'm saying? AD balled out, but then you also got to look at, Rajon Rondo was on that team, I think. So
Yeah.
what less are we talking about?
Kyle
I mean, we
Kuzma.
got to roll. Define less for me. Define less for me. Because
So if we look at the teams, right? Like we just said earlier, think about what we just said. Horace Grant, who was a first round draft pick in his time when he was selected, even though he wasn't selected first round with the Lakers, but he was a first round draft pick when selected. Horace Grant, Shaquille O'Neal, Derek Fisher, Robert Ory, Kobe Bryant. Who else is on some of those championship teams?
Brian Shaw, man, I mean, Rick Fox, come on, man. If we
Compared to Rajon Rondo, Dwight Howard, Kyle Kuzma, Alex Caruso, Anthony Davis, LeBron James.
That's less. Dwight Howard is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, but we talk about okay.
Rondo brought championship with him. He brought championship pedigrees with him.
Okay.
I mean, I started. I mean, nah, that I can't say less talent. I will say it was a challenging season, though. I don't think anybody ever had that many things mentally, right? I think the pandemic was a mentally stressful thing for everybody, right? You wondering and stuff. I think when you add those elements, yeah, it made it a little bit tougher. But other than that, nah, man. You know what I'm saying? Nah, I think actually I think he had less talent when he won the chip in Cleveland um than he did in LA. That's
Mm,
just me because outside of Kyrie Irving and outside of Kevin Love, who would you have? Dellavedova, uh,
true.
J.R. Smith was alright. You know what I'm saying? J.R. Smith was alright, but he had seen better days by that point, right? Richard Jefferson had seen better days by that point. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I actually think that the Lakers squad wasn't that bad.
And which I think is going to be more so what Drunk was just saying that over time is going to be more palatable. Once, especially once you're looking back and depending on where they have or what they have done at that point, is going to be like, you know what, saying that he earned his stripes as a Laker. Additionally, another conversation that came up actually this morning, I came across it as my saying some of our favorites in the basketball community, military basketball community, Coach and Coach Wayne were discussing and had a conversation in which it was brung up. And I don't think we've talked about something similar to that, but we haven't necessarily talked about it and let's just settle it here and now. Is Dennis Rodman a better player than Draymond Green? Who would you rather have, Draymond or Dennis?
What era are we talking, man? Like, okay, because here's the
That
truth.
was a conversation. Actually, that's what came up. It was said
Here's the truth.
Coach said that
What
Dennis
era?
Rodman cannot guard anyone in this league, in this era.
Okay, that's what I was gonna get to. This is what I was gonna get to. What era are we talking? Because if we talking the way back era is Dennis all day, but in this era is Draymond fits this era. Draymond is a better. He would be a better player than Dennis Rodman in this era. And don't get me wrong, Rodman had the effort. Maybe the effort, but Rodman was getting thrown out of games back then. Imagine, imagine he would never finish a game. Like he would be a huge liability. But let me get it. Let's just talk basketball. Let's just talk basketball and the differences, the tangibles versus the intangibles or whatever. Draymond can pass out of that. You know what I'm saying? Out of his position, he got a little bit better ball handling skills. They both shoot about the same. I mean, maybe Draymond. I mean, but anyway, the effort, the reason defensively, they both known as defensive monsters. Um, Rodman's toughest. Who was Rodman's toughest cover back then? You got to understand. All these dudes can shake you now. All these dudes can cross you up. I mean, you got 7 footers that can cross you up now.
Mm-hmm.
What 7 footer could cross you up then? I mean, Hakeem had great footwork, but he didn't cross you. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, he dream shook you. I mean, you know what I'm saying? He didn't cross you. He dream shook you. I mean, so I'm saying, Draymond, the lateral movements and stuff of the players these days, man. I mean, a lot of these dudes got the ball on the string. I'm just saying, look at the skill level of the players. They weren't as skilled. Players overall weren't as skilled back then when Rodman played, and maybe Rodman could be that mindset to make that difference, to make that adjustment. But I was wondering the same thing about Scottie Pippen, how effective with his defense, his Hall of Fame defense has been in this era. But I give it to Draymond in this era because because Rodman, his toughest cover was when he was with was when he held Michael Jordan from time to time when he was with the Pistons. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, other than that, you know, other than that, we can't look at it the same. Draymond to me is a better. Draymond fits his era better.
Okay. And then last one before we move on. What the next four next three All-Star games are going to be played all presumably on the West Coast, with the first one being played in Golden State, the next one being played in what will be the new Clipper Stadium, the Intuit Dome, and then 2027 we're going to have them in Phoenix. Do you think we're going to see a better product than what we've seen with it being on the opposite side of the coast?
I don't think it really matters, right? As far 'cause it's all about the mindset of the players and what they want to bring to the All Star table, right? I heard Zion just recently say that he'll be in the dunk contest if he's voted as an All Star. If he makes if he's considered an All Star, he'll be in the dunk contest. Now, what stipulations? Now, who needs those stipulations in order to perform and do what they need to do, other than privileged superstar athletes, right? Like nowadays, I mean, it's not just I'm gonna show off for the fans no more. I'm gonna put on some, like I got a million fans and I'm gonna show out for them. It's not like that no more, right? Um, so it's all about the branding and the individual. So it's not gonna matter what coast. I think the I like the idea of the West Coast for the simple fact that um, the game won't run so late as far as on the East Coast and stuff, right? Like at the time that they start, man, people be tired. You leaving an arena 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. Yeah, on a Sunday, right? When most people gotta go to work on a Monday. So I think the move to the West Coast, even for those that just watch specifically on TV, is what I'm really talking about.
Okay.
But like yeah, so I think the West Coast, but I don't think it's gonna have a bearing on. I mean, I don't think it's gonna have a bearing on the overall product. Maybe some of the festivities gonna be crazy.
Mm, okay. So moving into NFL talk, right? So I think the most glaring thing outside of Russell Wilson, which we'll get to second, is the fact that the Buffalo Bills have basically released damn near half their squad of starters for the following year and are in a complete rebuild. For a team such as the Buffalo Bills, do you think that is necessary in your opinion? When you take into consideration they walked back from obscurity and was able to make a play and get themselves into the playoffs and potentially almost the AFC Championship game. Do you think they're doing the wrong thing, or is you think is the right move?
It's gonna be what's necessary to stay within that cap, right? I mean,
True that.
when you put so much money in the quote unquote franchise quarterback, like you're gonna have to make some adjustments in order to stay relevant, in order to keep that quarterback, in order to keep your team competitive. The Bills prove that they want to win. Um, whether they can accomplish that or not, I think it's time to make some moves with some of the players, um, especially defensively,
Which they did,
because
yeah.
your main defensive players, for some reason, keep getting injured and hurt. So you got to make a sacrifice in order to get some better backups, better players overall. You got to, what I'm saying, to supplement for the injuries. You got to get some better players.
You know who I didn't name? I didn't hear. I see Stephon Diggs is still there.
I mean, do you really want to hear from him? He better not say nothing. I don't want to hear because he hurt his stock, right? Let's just be real. He can't go woofing right now because I mean a team will pick him up, but it'll be like New Orleans. It'll be like somewhere where they ain't winning. I mean, I'm just gonna put that out there. Um, yeah, maybe he'll go to the Chargers and revamp or something. I mean, I'm just saying, realistically, Stephon Diggs know he hurt his stock by doing all that big whooping and then performing the way he done performed in the last couple of postseasons that you've seen him in. He just ain't. It's like, yo, you're not big time as you claim until you do it on the big time stage, which takes me back to when he blew up as far as a player, right? Remember that play was a lucky play. That was a missed play, a missed tackle by whatever his name was for New Orleans that put Stephon Diggs on the map.
Drunk said basically they're taking on the Kansas City Chiefs moniker of doing business. Let their stars walk and and retool.
Okay, but here's the truth about that. That was a New England thing, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
outside of Brady, name maybe they kept Gronk, but Brady was taking pay cuts to keep the players that he wanted to try to keep, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? But they would keep. You knew they was gonna keep Gronk, Wes Welker, and Brady, right? Everybody else subject to change. You know what I'm saying? Like everything else is subject to change around you. And they built a winning culture like that. Pittsburgh always had that philosophy too. Don't pay the players, right? Um,
Mhm.
Ride it out. Uh, that's when you know that you got a quote unquote generational talent. You know what I'm saying? That we can build from anything. See, those are the keys. You watch all these teams that make all these moves, that spend all this money. Like take my Cowboys. We spend money every year on players, and we do well in the draft every year. But how many NFC championships has that translated to? How many Super Bowls has that translated? Nothing. So I kind of like the other way where I'm not paying you. Walk if you want to walk. Go somewhere else and make your money. We're gonna win over here without you. You know what I'm saying?
So, of course, when you look at it, other things have taken place in there. It's even your Cowboys have restructured. What's his name? Your left guard's contract in it's not Smith. What's the other one? Um,
Martin.
yeah, Martin restructured his contract. They had a little snafu earlier in the year. His contract has been restructured. We've seen Mitchell Trubisky goes back to the Buffalo Bills. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
going to be news or saying what happens.
Good move for Mitch.
Yeah, to go back because that's probably where I think that's what got him to where he was presumably seen as a key to go start in Pittsburgh, which it can end up panning out. Then you got Hunter Henry. He's resigned his contract with the Patriots, so he's going to be there. But I think what's interesting is the Jonnu Smith move from Miami. I mean, from Patriots to Miami. I mean not from Patriots, from what's that, Tennessee to Miami? Do you think this gives the Miami Dolphins a little more firepower?
Of course it does. Miami is building to win soon. Like I said, I don't know if they're gonna get it done, but I've liked a lot of the moves that the Dolphins like. Come on, let's face it. The Dolphins was in the toilet a few years ago, not long ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then all of a sudden they came with a different. I think that controversy that they went through with the whole Flores thing,
Mm-hmm.
them being put on the spot of being accused of not wanting to win, has made them want to prove that they've wanted to win, which is crazy, right? Because we knew they weren't trying to win under Flores then, right? But I think the pressure came down that hey, this is what's going on. When your secrets get exposed, hey, you see, I like what the Dolphins are doing now. Now it's saying that hey, you know what, we back to that Dan Marino level. We come to compete all the time, and there's nothing wrong with that. You a team that's supposed to compete.
Zach Ertz was brought into your division, back into your division. I'm sorry, not in, back into your division. Do you think he still has some tread on his tire to be effective? Especially, I mean, we don't know who's quarterbacking in Washington yet.
If he does, he has very little.
Okay.
If he does, um, to me, it's like you know how Jason Witten held on for so long, and then even in his, you know, he retired and then came back, and he wasn't nearly as effective as he was before he retired. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, that's what I see for Ertz right now.
Okay. L'Jarius Sneed, they put the franchise tag on him.
It was supposed to.
So
Good move by
which
the
is
Chiefs.
20 million for 1 year. Like, of course, we know by at a certain point they just put it on there so they can sit up and hold on to them, and then they can still negotiate to where they can get that drop down from the 20 million for 1 year to wherever it's going to be over the course, maybe 15 million for over the course of 3 years or something like that. But currently, he has the non-exclusive franchise tag. And at the same time, they signed the linebacker Drew Treadwell, to a 3-year, $19 million contract with $13 million fully guaranteed. So of course the Chiefs are making moves and doing that. Other players put on brung in Dalton Schultz with the Houston Texans. Went ahead and signed the deal, re-signed for 3 years, $12 million a year to stay in Houston as their tight end. Nelson Aguilar did a 1-year extension. Justin Matabuki was signed the franchise tag. Will has received the franchise tag again, $22 million for 1 year. Do you think the franchise tag is a good tool to utilize or no?
Yeah, I think so. because it makes sure the player, like you're gonna get the most money for that position under the franchise tag, right? Where they can give you under that. So I think it works out, and it helps the market of certain positions, right? Like because it's like, hey, if I'm a true talent, and I say, hey, the franchise tag is here, then you got to pay me this, or you know what I'm saying? Then you got to pay me above that. So I look at it like, yeah, it's a winner, and we saw, like I said, we talked about this before. Kirk Cousins made a career off the franchise tag.
That's
Like,
tag
you
he
know
did.
what I'm saying?
Well
I mean,
paid.
he got the back 2 years back to back. So, hey, I think it's a benefit for the team. You get to keep a player, uh, and it don't hurt you that much in the cap game, right? Because
Hmm.
it's already structured. So anytime you have a structure, which I'm surprised that the Giants said they wasn't going to do that to Saquon Barkley again. Um, so you're gonna run the risk of losing Saquon. I mean, for nothing. Uh, which to me is like crazy. You put the franchise tag on him last year, like you know what I'm saying. And why you can't work out a deal with this guy?
The value, I don't think they value him like that. So Drunk was just saying that he thinks that if Dolphins continue to get it together, they're going to be up. Who's up on the league? You agree with that?
I mean, they can be scary. I mean, the coach can change the culture single handedly, right? The approach to the game is different. Offensively, they crazy. If they can get a defense um, up to their offense a little bit, then yeah, I can see them. I can see them dethroning the Chiefs at some point. You know what I mean? Um, I can see that happening.
So a couple of other things, right? Going forward. First, do you think that the Chicago, in your opinion, with them signing Jalen Johnson $76 million, do you think they're starting to value defense over the offense because they think they have a different plan going in for offensively? You think they're showing their hand?
What they used. This is what Chicago used to do, right? Put the defense above the offense all the time. So it's like, oh, now you go back to that formula. That formula works for you more so than anything else, right? Like offensively, you always like, who's the names on Chicago? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, take away Walter Payton. Let's take Walter Payton out of the conversation. Uh, who has been outside of Walter Payton? Who's been the best ever offensive player in a Chicago uniform? I mean, it's gonna take you a minute to think about that. I mean, for real, when you really, I mean, offense has never been they calling card. So I think it's hard to transition from that when years, you talk Brian Urlacher, you don't talk, you know what I'm saying? Whoever was on the other side. I'm serious.
Galt, Jim McMahon.
Case in point, wasn't David Montgomery a Chicago Bear before he was a Detroit Lion or whatever?
Went and showed out his first year in Detroit.
I mean, you feel what I'm saying? Like we barely recognize the guy in Chicago. I mean, I'm just saying. That's how much. It's not because he wasn't good in Chicago. I'm just saying that Chicago
Who else was a good player
offensively.
that was pretty good in Forte? He was a pretty good running
Yeah,
back.
John Forte ran, but that's like 2 years. He was hot like 2, 3 years. I'm
Injuries got
saying they've never had franchise players
okay,
offensively in
okay,
Chicago.
yeah,
They've never
offensive.
had them. Let's just keep it real. Like that's what I'm saying. Outside of Walter Payton, name another. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like name. I mean, Brandon Marshall played there. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And he was alright. Like he talked. To me, he talked like he was way better than what his film show. I mean, that's just my opinion. Um, but I'm just saying, like Chicago typically, so defense is your calling card. So I like the move. I didn't like the move when they got rid of what's his name
Khalil Mack.
when they got rid of it wasn't Khalil Mack. After Khalil Mack, um, they sent him to Baltimore. He went to Baltimore for a while. Roquan Smith, yeah, Roquan. Like you started breaking up the whole defense. You was breaking up the band. I think they would have some. If they kept those guys, they would have solid, decent teams right now. They could competitive teams.
Just going back to Saquon Barkley, even though he is not, even though he is not Henry, where do you think they end up? Like two different type of same type of running back, but two different running backs at the same time. Where do you think is a good fit for them going forth when the most likely they're not going to be playing on their teams they play with this year, past year?
For Henry, if Henry for Henry, it's an open market, right? Like I think Henry can go anywhere because even if he can't give you what he gave you in Tennessee, his short yardage, I mean, his body too big, his short yardage would be killer, right? So uh, any team, pick one. But I think if you're talking a team trying to get over and win, I could see him going. I could see Henry. I would like to see him as a Dallas Cowboy, but he wouldn't be bad in Philly neither. I hate to say that because I don't want to give Philly nothing. But
I love to
I
ask you
think,
where.
but I could see Philly pulling the trigger on a move like that to have him compliment Swift in the backfield. I could see. Um, I could even see like a Henry. I could see his talents being used. Man, it's just so many teams to even think of. Like, imagine if Henry went to Chicago. I think that'd be a good move for him. He'll get the other. I think the other person. We were talking about Saquon. Saquon to me, man. Again, I would love to see him as a Dallas Cowboy. I will take him because because even though we beat the Giants all the time, Saquon is a difficult matchup. But I also like him um, if he went if Saquon went and coupled up with Eckler out there in the Chargers. Woo man, uh, they would. Wow, Harbaugh would have something. Harbaugh would have something. Saquon and Eckler in the backfield. Woo. Yeah, that would be dangerous.
Donovan says Jacobs to Dallas, Barkley and Saquon to Vegas.
I think Vegas would be a waste of. I think the team get over the hump and win, right? And I don't see the Raiders being that squad that's gonna win. I think if he wants his career to be over, then maybe Vegas. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't consider Vegas. I, like I like the Charger move, and I also like. I mean, if the Rams, the Rams want a 1-2 punch, they could go either Henry or I'm just saying certain teams a 1-2. Even Seattle would be, a better fit if you're trying to win. Stay away from the Commanders. I mean, it's very very enticing to go to the Commanders because you say, hey, they rebuilding and they retooling. They got new ownership, they got new coaching staffs and all that. I don't let that fool you. They just signed Zach Ertz, but they tell you what they own. I mean, I'm just saying. Just saying.
So, what is the hugest topic? Of course, is now. Of course, we know Russ Wilson is expected, or is going to, or has been released by the Denver Broncos. So, first in the shoot already, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York Giants. So, let's unpack this just a little bit in the last part of this. Is this a slap in the face to just recently signed Daniel Jones or recently drafted Kenny Pickett at this point when you look at, or is it just you got to expect it because you got to kick the tires? Russell Wilson is a 3-time Super Bowl quarterback, or 2-time. I'm sorry.
Now, I know Russell Wilson has been on a decline in everybody's mind, and some of his play ain't been up to snuff. But let's just keep it real. Um, Even with one eye, I think he's better than what I'm saying? Both of those quarterbacks. I mean, I think he's better than Pickett. I think he's better than Danny Dimes. I mean, period. So I think that would be an upgrade to both of those teams, even if it's just short term, right? And I know the Giants paid uh, Danny the money already, but Russell Wilson, um, I think he's better than. I would like to see him in Pittsburgh. Him, what can Tomlin do? Like, I think it'll prove Tomlin's coaching. Can you revive this? Can you revive this guy's career where it seems to be just hanging on by the slightest of pulses? Like for real. Like, can you? On the other side of that, Denver, man. Like Sean, like when they don't like you, they don't like you. You know, like obviously Sean Payton came in there. And he ain't got ownership. GM, everybody against you now. Everybody that wanted you there. You know what I'm saying? The people that brought you there, they against you now. They so against you now. They even 85 million. I think they said 85 million gonna be dead money now if
Mm-hmm.
they cut them. They release you. They willing to give up 85 million. Who's willing to give up 85 million to prove a point? I'm just saying they don't like you, man. Um, so I hope that adds fuel to Russell Wilson, no matter where he
So,
goes.
and so when I look at it in New York, I feel like there's no weapons in New York. Currently, there's no weapons in New York. And then take in consideration, we just talked about Saquon. Saquon isn't even there currently. So it's like, what are they bringing into New York to say, hey, Russ, this is what we're going to be working with? They don't have a receiving core. I haven't had a receiving core really in the last couple of years to where they have continued to remain on the bottom of the NFC East, let alone the NFC or the NFL. Then when you flip, in my opinion, to Pittsburgh, you might have a couple of more weapons in Williams. Pickens. You got a 1-2
Johnson.
punch with Warren and Harris. Fremont is you know what I'm saying. So you might have something there, but it's like, do you bring in? You drafted 2 years ago. You drafted what presumably was your franchise quarterback, and here you go bring in another franchise quarterback to be at the helm. I was like, so how do you sell that? Do you basically say we need to develop you more, and you're saying and this is why we're bringing this person in, or like how do you do that to where they don't rescind backwards and be like, oh, I want out?
You basically selling like, did you see how you played? So it's gonna be a quarterback competition up in this market. If you want this spot, then you gonna come and you gonna show out. You feel what I'm saying? I mean, that's what I look at. Like Pickett has chances. He got a chance. Like, but what has he done with those chances? Like Tomlin, he playing like the coach is coaching for his legacy. It's like I can't keep messing around with you hoping that you get it together. You know what I mean? I gotta try different. I gotta try something different, right? Like it's like you start doing everything, right? It's like yo, it's like if you in a situation like you saw like the old Western movies, right? They run out of ammo, they start throwing rocks. Like you gotta start doing everything, right? You gotta start, or you just charge. I mean, you know what I mean? You gotta start doing everything. If you're Pittsburgh to get back on the winning track. We saw Pickett. It just ain't happening quick enough. Uh, 2 3 years, it's not happening quick enough for their timetable. So yeah, you explore Russell Wilson and you say, hey, we could probably win and be relevant again, play at least a playoff team again.
It was Donovan's going off being a Pittsburgh fan. As he said he'd rather draft Bo Nix or Penix Jr. in the second round, or he would glad took Trey Lance over Pickett, of course, in state. I don't know. I know it was conversation in reference to will Trey Lance get an opportunity to go somewhere else and compete for a starting position, which is
No,
he a trade asset for I guess you could say Dallas to bring in
no,
some.
we need to keep that in our back pocket. We don't need to get,
Oh my goodness!
I'm just saying
So
because when Dak go to staring at the stars, hey, just saying.
got to be able to do something. And last but not least, Aaron Rodgers stated that he could potentially play another 2 to 4 years. Is that is that fathomable, or is he just basically talking at this point?
Well, they always say it's a copycat league in the Trent, right? Like, didn't Brady play till like 43, 44, whatever? I mean, so he gonna be in that same age. Notice how that works. He gonna be in that same age bracket. I mean, I'm just saying. And guess what? He can play all those years right there as a New York Jet because that organization makes poor decisions all the time. So yeah, if he really want to pull that off 2 to 4 more years, yeah, he can get that as a New York Jet. But I don't know if he can get that anywhere else other than as a Jet.
You know what I
Um,
said? The thing about it, man, I don't understand how year after year, and what I guess I do understand, I get it a little bit, but why is it year after year the onus and emphasis is put on quarterbacks? Like these franchise teams, all these teams have potential franchise players. 32 teams. we're talking about potentially 64 quarterbacks that are should be kind of like solidified, but we continue to have put on this on the quarterback. And when it comes to these drafts, do you think it's going to be a point to where we're going to get to where it's not going to be that, and that whoever's coming out that's hot is going to decide I'm going to stay an additional year, if possible, in college due to the fact of I'm not going to be able to go and start, and I'm probably not going to be a top tier draft, or maybe you might. I don't know. Do you think there's anything in the cards to where legitly drafting a quarterback is going to really be to sit them because you already have a quarterback that's in place and you don't need?
We already starting to run into that, right?
Okay.
Like, but the thing is, people retire, people get injured, and they don't come back, right? Or they don't perform as well as they did before. So it's always going to be that. But I think that you're starting to run into um, teams are starting to say, hey, I'm getting my franchise guy, right? Or I'm getting this guy, right? Like, take Denver. It's a risky move. Like I said, who could afford to lose 85 million, right? But look on the bright side of it. You draft a quarterback, you ain't got to pay him nearly as much. You feel what I'm saying? Or you bring in a Justin Fields, you ain't got to pay him nearly as much right now, right? Like, you got to pay him down the road if he pans out. I mean, so I'm saying, like, with these young quarterbacks that's still in a 1 through 4 years, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you draft a quarterback, you got 4 years before you got to make up your mind whether or not you want to pay him. You feel what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? So it gives you that cushion. It gives you that breathing room. So that way you can get rid of a franchise guy that you do your franchise after, like a Russell Wilson or something, or a Aaron Rodgers, right? You can say, hey, you can beat it. You know what I mean? But look at Green Bay. Green Bay didn't make the playoffs with Jordan Love. So in Green Bay's mind, they made the right decision, right? Like, because they ended up doing the same thing. Guess what? They did the same thing they was doing with Aaron Rodgers. You know what I'm saying? Make the playoffs at some point, win a playoff game, and go home, right? You know what I'm saying? I mean, that was a pattern with Aaron Rodgers. So when I look at it, when we start talking to quarterback, what do you want out of your franchise quarterback? Because that determines a whole lot on how you keep and how you treat your players, how you treat your quarterbacks and stuff. So yeah, it may seem like it's quarterback heavy, but at some point, every team gonna have a franchise quarterback, and then you don't have that problem if they can find them, right? Some teams gonna constantly shift because they draft because you don't know what you're gonna get in the draft.
Mm. So last but not least, pro day or combine, which are you putting more emphasis on?
For me, pro day is just for you to shine. So all eyes on you on your pro day. Go out there, have fun, clown a little bit. But I would rather blend in at the combine. And, for me personally, like if it was me, I'm going to the combine versus this pro day because um, you either gonna blow your stock up or you gonna devalue yourself. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I mean, we've seen that before, right? Pro day debacles. You know what I'm saying? And we've seen different things, and not to be funny or nothing, but remember a professional athlete pretty much having a pro day that didn't pan out at all, right? Because it didn't go the way that nobody wanted it to go. Remember the Colin Kaepernick thing? That should show you something about those pro days, right?
Yeah.
Like, you all mad because people didn't show up. You mad because they want you to sign a waiver. They want you to do all these things. I mean, you feel what I'm saying? They mad because they like, yo, you at this little tiny high school. This ain't, you know what I'm saying? This wasn't a part of the deal. I mean, you feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so pro days are iffy in my opinion, and I think it hurts your stock sometimes. Whereas in the combine, you can either stay middle. I mean, you can hurt your value in a combine, but I think it's harder to hurt your value when it's everybody ranked against each other. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Like
So
like
Eddie,
everybody. So before see everybody already saying before pro days started, everybody already saying that stuff about Caleb Williams. Like, do you see some of the articles and some of the topics? Like, he must have something to hide. Why is he ducking this? Why is he ducking that? See, what is he hiding? Why is he not? You know what I'm saying? Why is he not putting his skills on display? See, people are already starting to have those doubts. Didn't this happen to? Remember, it happened. This happened. This very same thing just happened to Bryce Young.
correct. And we see what Bryce did.
Right. You know what I'm saying? The things that are happening to Caleb Williams right now with some of the same conversations they was having about Bryce Young. And you see, I mean, I'm just saying, you drafted high, but then the performance. So people starting to already wonder, like, what is Caleb Williams hiding?
I think Caleb is going to be okay. Just like we're going to be okay. We'll be back again on Monday, in which we're going to have a special, maybe a special couple of guests. I do have one in particular that we're going to have on that's basically saying they got something to get off his chest. Of course, you have to tune in to see who that is. And we should be able to run back with Anthony. I had to get with him. I know he said he had to run to Kansas City to pick up some helmets. So that's why he wasn't able to pick up a signal, get on. So we'll see if we can run it back with him next week, even Monday or Friday. And then, of course, what's happened over the last couple of days as we get closer and closer to seeing who is going to be in the big dance this coming March Madness, as it's going to be live in effect. So look forward to doing that. Any last words before we get out here, Coach?
Yeah, these tournaments, the NCAA tournaments, men's and women's, they're gonna be pretty good. These conference tournaments and stuff like that. But right now, or my early predictions right now, before March Madness even starts, yeah, I'm going on record saying South Carolina's coming out for the women. You know what I'm saying? And I'm pulling heavily for the Cougars. Come on, Houston Cougars, get it together, be ready. Shed, I gotta shout out Shed, man. That boy Shed can ball. He know he can ball.
And we look forward to see y'all on Monday. Of course, it's the weekend. Y'all go out and enjoy yourselves. Peace. Holla at you.